And this one is a competitive tile placement worker movement style game where players are going to be spending money in order to build different buildings like workshops and different businesses where they can send their gnomes to in order to activate them, generate a profit, and earn victory points for the end of the game. Each of these buildings offer their own action that they allow you to perform, and in order to build a building in your village, the only restriction is that it needs to be connected to your village and it needs to be adjacent to at least one road tile. Each building in this game does come in two states, either its inactive state or its active state, and in order to indicate that, you're just going to be flipping the tile to one side or the other. In order to activate a building, all you got to do is move a gnome onto that tile, and that's going to be flipping it to its active side. One thing I really like about this game is that you don't really have to worry about movement, because in order to move your gnome from one building to another, you just instantly move it there and it can move any distance as long as it's connected within your village. This doesn't have any pick up and deliver or anything like that, and the sole purpose of the roads within your village are just to allow you to connect more buildings. I am a big fan of that because pick up and deliver is not a favorite mechanism of mine, and I just wanted to point that out because the first time that I saw this with all the roads and the different meeples that you're going to be placing on the different locations, I initially thought that this was going to involve some sort of pick up and deliver, so if that was your impression as well, that is not going to be the case. And I have this set up as a two-player game with the blue player over here and the pink player over here, and you do get some starting tiles that you'll be able to build out your village however you like. And one thing to note here is that you do start with two buildings. One of them is going to be starting with its lights on, indicating that it's activated, and then the other one's going to be starting with its lights off. Your gnome does start at the building with the lights on, so I'll move this gnome over there. House tiles don't do too much on their own, but there are some other actions that do incorporate them, but they are a limit to how many gnomes that you can have, with your gnomes never exceeding the number of houses in your village. Other than the houses, you can also add different workshops into your village, and those are represented by these 4 different colored tiles up here. The houses don't actually cost anything to build, but you do need to have the appropriate workshops to be able to build the house. And there's 4 different workshops offered in the game. There's the gardener, which allows you to build more roads. There's the school, which allows you to acquire more gnomes, assuming that you have a house for them. Then there's the painter and the carpenter that you're going to need both of in order to build new houses. These 4 different tokens that I have beneath the workshops represent the products that those workshops can create, and rather than building one of those workshops and then activating it and using it to perform one of these actions, you can instead just purchase one of these tokens for 1 additional coin more than the workshops cost, and then you could just spend that token at any time in the future as a substitute for activating one of your workshops. The only other type of tile that you can actually purchase in this game are the business tiles, which are represented by this stack here, and there's all sorts of different businesses that you can purchase. Each of these will have a different icon on them indicating which type of business they represent, and then all the different actions are outlined on this business actions card. But this one with the hat on it is a little bit special because whichever player has the most of those in their village is going to be the one to gain the Happy Gnome token. This is nice to have because it's worth 2 additional victory points at the end of the game. Each of your workshops and houses that you built are worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. The businesses, on the other hand, are not necessarily worth anything. However, there are some in here that do have a victory point outlined on them. Some of the businesses' actions do also incorporate a little bit of take that, but the nice thing about this is that there are other buildings that you can acquire in order to defend yourself from that. But this is a game that just alternates between the players, each taking a turn, and at the start of your turn, the first thing that you're going to do is reveal a forest card. Each of these cards is going to have some sort of different iconography indicating what you gain, and in this case I would gain a road tile as well as a single coin. So I'll just grab one from the stack and place it randomly wherever I like, and I think this spot looks good. And then I'll gain my profits. The next thing that would happen is I'd earn additional coins for each of the business tiles that I currently have a gnome standing on. Since the only type of building I have is a house, I don't have any business tiles, so I'm not going to be gaining additional coins right now. The next thing I can do is for every building that I've flipped to its active side, I could then perform its action. But like I said, I only have houses right now, so I'm just going to be moving into the next phase, which is to buy stuff with my coins. There's no limit to what you can buy as long as you do have the coins to pay for it, so I'm going to buy at least 2 of the business tiles, and I got the airport as well as a restaurant. So I'm going to place the restaurant over here and the airport over here. Any tiles that you purchase do get placed immediately, so in order to gain a tile, you do need to have a location to place it. And I think I will spend 2 of my coins to buy one of the workshops, and I'm going to buy the yellow one, which is the school. And when you place these, they do go face down, indicating that they are currently inactive, And in order to activate that, all I have to do is move my meeple over onto that tile. And you do get to move all of your gnomes at the end of your turn, which does allow me to do this. And then my opponent would have their turn, but we could just skip over that and come back to what a second turn might look like. So let's just say that they had their turn and now it came back to me, and I'm going to be starting my turn in the exact same way, just drawing one of these forest cards. And this forest card actually allows each player to activate any of their inactive workshops that match one of these three icons. Unfortunately for me, I don't have any inactive workshops matching any of these icons, but let's say that my opponent did. If that was the case, they could just go ahead and flip this one to its active side since it matches the shovel. Then I'd be going through the exact same phases here, earning coins for any gnomes that I have on businesses, which I don't currently have. And then I'd perform an action for every tile that's flipped to its active side, and now that I have this school flipped to its active side, I can deactivate it. And since the school gains me another gnome, I'd go ahead and do that, and I am able to do it since I do have another house here for that gnome, which would then flip that to its active side, which does make it worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. I'm going to start wanting to gain some money here, so I'm going to spend my last 2 coins to buy 2 more business tiles. And I gain the doctor's office as well as the courier, which can both gain me a coin. So I'll just install both of those there, and I'll move each of my gnomes onto one of those tiles so that in my following turn I will gain 2 additional coins. In addition to that, I would also gain access to the specific actions that those businesses give. And the hospital allows me to flip one of my inactive tiles to its active side without having to have a gnome on it. But when I do that, I do have to give a corresponding token to an opponent. But the courier, on the other hand, allows me to flip an active tile to its inactive side and then sell the corresponding token to an opponent, and that does force them to give me 3 coins. Of course, I just moved my gnomes to those tiles, so in order for me to actually do these actions, I do have to wait for my next turn. And since the other players do also see where my gnomes are on my village, that also gives them some time to prepare for those potential actions. But the game continues like this until a single player is able to place all 5 of their gnomes out on their village, and that's going to be triggering the last round of the game. Then after that round, players are going to be tallying up all their victory points from their different buildings and workshops, as well as their various coins. Then the player with the most victory points wins the game, and if you want to check this one out, I will have it linked in the description down below.